Hey, beautiful people. All right, we got another awesome episode in the books today, and we have a guest star, Shaun. How's it going, Shaun? Can you hear me? Oh, you're frozen. Well, we have frozen Shaun here. Can you hear me now?
I got you now.
Oh, okay, you were frozen. Awesome, cool. All right, well, I'm super glad to finally have you on the podcast. I know we've been talking about it and such, but yeah.
Yeah,
So let's
appreciate
go
you
ahead
having
and
me.
what's that?
I said I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I want to talk about your just jump straight into your Alaskan adventure since we were just talking about that backstage.
Oh, well, up in Alaska, we go gold mining. Doesn't have a lot to do with critters up there, but
Uh, It's still
we go,
super exciting.
we go diving in the ocean in Nome, Alaska, and yeah, we suck gold up off the ocean floor.
That's crazy. Like, what does that entail? Like, so are you just down there like with a hose sucking up stuff, or
It takes
like
a
you
diver.
fully?
Yeah, it takes a diver to do it, and we're just diving on what's called a suction dredge, and so you're just down at the bottom of the ocean working a nozzle and pretty much vacuuming up the ocean floor.
That's crazy. What made you like? How does somebody just get into that job, that profession?
Oh, I've been gold mining on and off for about 15 years and started going up to Nome, Alaska about 3 years ago now, something like that. And it's
That's
just a lot of gold in the ocean up there. So it's very appealing to keep going back, I suppose.
that's awesome. What could you tell us like your best gold story? I guess like out in the wild.
Gold story. Oh,
Yeah. It
I mean,
doesn't
it
have
was
to
just
necessarily be like the biggest thing, but just like the best story, I guess.
well, the best story I probably have is actually dredging in the rivers in Idaho. The first gold nugget that we ever found in our sluice box. My buddy I got done diving, and my buddy, my partner at the time, went and checked the sluice box as I was getting warm ashore and taking my dive gear off. And he finds a gold nugget in the sluice box at the very bottom. And he pulls it out and gets all excited and holds it up in the air and shows it to me. And he decides to like start running towards shore to show it off. And he trips and he falls and he drops the nugget back in the river. And yeah, that was probably the best like story I got. But
My God, did you guys find it?
we ended up finding it like the next day with a metal detector. Yeah, we got lucky.
It works with a metal detector?
Yeah, we found it with a metal detector.
What?
Yeah,
That's awesome. I didn't even know that was possible.
yeah.
That's crazy. So you could just, can you find gold that way with the metal detector? Just, I mean, obviously you did, but is that like a nice way to find it?
Yeah, a lot of people go gold mining just with metal detectors. If the area that's known to have like nuggets, they can just detect them and dig them up.
That's so interesting. That's crazy. And you found it in Idaho. That's
That
even
was
more crazy.
yeah.
I didn't know there was gold in Idaho.
We do find pickers up in Nome, Alaska, but I haven't found like an actual nugget up there yet. We just get a lot of really fine gold up there.
How big was the nugget that you found in Idaho?
Well, it was a quartz and gold specimen, so I think we figured there was about an ounce of gold in the specimen, roughly.
What is that worth?
Oh, at the time, mind you, that was a decade ago, and gold was only worth like 1,200 an ounce. So I think with that specimen, it was probably about 1,500 at the time.
What would it be worth now?
Nowadays, that same chunk would probably be worth about 3,500, 4 grand.
Holy shit.
Hmm.
That's crazy. That's insane.
Yep.
Well, that's awesome. All right, let's switch it up. And the title of the episode is some Australian adventures. So I guess let's just tell us about your story and some Australia stuff.
Well, I ended up going over there in 2020. Initially, the plan was only to go over there for about a month. I went over there as a volunteer firefighter for the big bushfires that happened in 2020.
Crazy.
And, I went over there, put my hand up with about 100 other volunteers, mostly from California at the time, and we went over there to help with the wildfire effort. And obviously, during the time of the fires, it was pretty obvious how much wildlife was getting impacted by the fires at the time. And once the fires got out, actually about 3 weeks after we showed up, it was an easy transition from the firefighting to a wildlife rescue. So that's how it all started. And then COVID happened at the time, and so I made the decision to just stay in Australia, and I had some pretty significant adventures while I was there, and a lot of work with wildlife. So it was pretty cool.
Just casually made the decision to stay. That's so crazy. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a good decision.
So while you were firefighting, what did you see wildlife wise? Like I know like I see the pictures where there's like a burnt koala bear and stuff. Is that like reality there?
It was very much a reality there at the time, but where I was fighting the fires, koalas actually weren't really endemic to that area. They were a little further south in New South Wales and South Australia. So
Okay.
we didn't actually have koalas where I was working, but we did have lots of kangaroos and wallabies and wombats and obviously all the birds and snakes and various other reptiles. We had a lot of monitor lizards and obviously in the course of like fighting the fires, it was pretty obvious like how much the wildlife had been impacted. There was a lot of kangaroos with burnt feet and wombats that had burns on them from trying to get into their burrows while they were burning and things like that. And so it was, yeah, pretty sad to see that side of it.
Did you yourself rescue any?
Yeah, I was actually part of a team for about a month and a half. I was working with, it was an organization called Vets Beyond Borders, and they set up a triage in the snowy mountains of New South Wales, Australia. And essentially, their goal was to treat as much injured wildlife as they could after the fires. And so I was working with a team, and our job was to essentially dart and track injured animals. And so we would point out kangaroos and wallabies that clearly were limping and had burns on their feet. And there was an Australian darter that was on the team. And so he would tranquilize the animals and we'd track them down with a stretcher and bring them back to the team of vets.
That's crazy. What were some of the techniques that they used to tranquilize them?
It was all just a dart gun.
Okay. Like I didn't know if it was like some of the crazy stuff you see in a helicopter or I guess they were pretty immobilized, so it would just be on foot or
Everything we did was on foot.
uh, that's scary. So you said
Yeah.
the wildfires in 2020, they were just the huge ones. I think I remember seeing them on the news.
Yeah, it was definitely all over the news at the time. It was a pretty significant event that the whole world was made privy to at the time.
I
And
remember it was one of those, and then like a year after or two, it was the Amazon that caught fire,
mhm.
something like that. That's crazy. And then of course, Oregon's always on fire.
Yeah.
California. That's insane. Okay, so then you said you went after the fire and did some rescue work and stuff. What kind of rescue work did you do there?
No, like I said, we were just tracking injured animals after they were tranquilized and bringing them back to the team of vets that was working in the snowy mountains. And it was mostly kangaroos and wallabies that we were tracking and capturing. There was an occasional wombat, um, and then obviously the reptiles. There was a few snakes that got brought in and a couple lace monitors.
Wow, that's awesome. And then were they Bell's phase or were they just normal?
There was yellow spotted and lace monitors is where I was at, and in most cases they all had some sort of burn, and the vets were actually doing like laser burn treatments on these animals, and
Wow,
it
that's
was
crazy.
pretty impressive to see. In all reality, what I was doing paled in comparison to what those vets were doing on the grounds, and it was, yeah, pretty impressive.
And then you stayed there for COVID and kind of quarantine there. What kind of animal stuff did you do during that?
What kind of what?
What kind of animal stuff did you do during the quarantine and all that stuff?
Well, by the time COVID really hit, all that work that we were doing in the mountains was kind of dwindling down. And one of the main Aussie guys that I was working with doing the wildlife capturing at the time, he lived up in far north Queensland, which is a lot closer to the Great Barrier Reef. And so, when he decided to go home, I made a phone call to him. COVID was like really becoming a big thing in the news, and I had to make the decision like full on of if I was staying there or going. and I reached out to my buddy Bo and asked him if he had a place that I could stay, and he was real encouraging, and so I came up to far north Queensland, the Cairns area, and I lived with my buddy Bo, and he was into the wildlife rescue up there already, and so it was a pretty cool experience getting to move up there and just be part of all the wildlife stuff that was coming in, because at the time we were actually considered an essential service, and so while most of the city was going into lockdowns and whatnot, we were still able to kind of come and go to do wildlife rescues, and so it made it pretty cool.
Everything was it all barren just everywhere when you were doing it?
Well, the fires hadn't hit in far north Queensland, so again, there was a move between like the fires and going up there. But yeah, we were still doing like there was plenty of wildlife that was getting hit by cars and things of that nature up in Queensland. So
That's crazy. Did you personally go out and just have fun and go herping and all that stuff?
I mean, we went herping all the time, of course, and then I got really lucky. My right when this all happened and I first moved up to Queensland, my buddy Bo put me in touch with a lady named Jenny who owned it's called Cairns Turtle Rehab, and it's a sea turtle rehab center out on Fitzroy Island. And that I think that's where my story gets really cool, is that like while the whole world was panicking over COVID and shutting down, I had this amazing opportunity to live on this beautiful tropical island surrounded by reef, and
Oh
my
my
job
god.
my job was essentially to take care of injured sea turtles for about 6 months while the ferry couldn't come and go because of COVID.
Wow. Talk about an experience of a lifetime. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
we had the whole island to ourselves, and it was pretty awesome. Like the resort staff got to stay out there, so there was about 30 of us on the island, and no tourists were coming and going at the time. So it was just kind of we were able to just
Um,
party for like 6 months while the whole world was panicking over COVID. And
I bet that was nice, just a little vacation.
it really was, man. We were laying in hammocks during the day and swimming on the reef in the afternoon, and it was just awesome.
What kind of sea turtles were coming in that you were rescuing?
At the time, it was mostly green sea turtles that we had, and we also had, I think it was one olive ridley that we had at the time when I was there.
Ooh, that's awesome. And then you're a dive. Did you you went diving there? I
Oh,
saw
we
some
did
sharks.
lots of diving out there. Yeah.
What are some diving stories you have?
Most of my cool diving stories aren't necessarily like on that particular location, but I do
Nice.
have some pretty cool dive stories.
Heck yeah. What are some of them? I love underwater. That's one of my favorite places in the world. So sharks, any marine life, just anything like that. I
Yeah,
love them more than reptiles.
I was actually working with a guy in Playa del Carmen, Mexico, for a couple years, where he runs a tourism bull shark dive operation out there, and so he's got these pregnant female bull sharks that like come to this location every day for several months, and I'm assuming to some extent it's that the sharks are constantly getting fed as part of this whole operation, and so that pregnant females tend to stick around, and a lot of them constantly had fishing hooks in their mouth because of the local fishing industry. And the guy that I was working with was essentially starting a program to remove the hooks out of the mouths of these sharks when we were on these dives. And so I got to be a part of that for about a month when I was there.
What? And did you actually pull some hooks out yourself?
Yeah, I was able to pull about 3 hooks out in the time that I was diving with this guy and doing this thing, but we were wearing chainmail suits the whole time, and so, like, even if they did get a hold of your hand, you'd be pretty protected by the suit. But,
Can you describe that experience? That's crazy.
we were about 100 feet, crystal clear water, and, like, offshore of Playa del Carmen, Mexico, and, we would wear a lot of weight so that you were negatively buoyant. You'd pretty much just walk around on bottom, and we would wear chainmail, and, we always brought down a bucket of chum that would kind of essentially attract these sharks to our vicinity. And one thing that I always kind of found fascinating doing that was that there's like clearly a pecking order amongst these sharks. It's like there was an alpha female that was obviously the biggest, and then the pecking order typically went downhill according to the size of these sharks, and so it was pretty obvious that like the alpha female always made it a point to like feed first, and all the other sharks would like stay out on the vicinity. And then once she kind of had some food in her, and she'd swim off to the outskirts, and some of the lesser, uh, the smaller ones, I should say, would come in and take their turn. And so,
That's amazing. What kind of sharks came in?
no, they were all bull sharks,
Just all
female.
bull sharks?
Yeah,
That's crazy. That's so cool. What are
yeah.
other shark encounters you have around the world?
Oh, I've had quite a few. I've dove with hammerheads. I've dove with
Ooh, I want to hear a hammerhead story.
lots of reef sharks, white tips, black tips, various pelagic sharks. Um, Bull sharks are, I would say, what I've like got most up close and personal with, obviously, but the other ones were just like encounters during dive trips and things like that.
Was it scary?
Oh, I love sharks. I'm not afraid of them at all when I'm diving with them. If I was swimming on the surface and I had sharks below me, I'd probably have a slightly different opinion of that. But
But in the water, you just know how to act, and
well, in the water, if I'm being honest with you, from my personal experience, sharks tend to be scared of divers. We're making a lot of noise and we just don't look like food to them. And so, in most cases, if you encounter a shark on a scuba dive, you have to like chase it to get it on film or to take pictures of it. It's not just like hanging around you. And so,
huh?
yeah,
Huh?
from my experience, it really takes like some bait to keep them in the vicinity, keep them interested.
Have you had any close calls or like scary encounters or
Um,
like surprises? I guess like, oh, there's a shark right there.
No, I actually can't. I mean, I've had some that surprised me that they were there, but it was never they were never like coming after me or anything like
Mhm.
that.
What other sea life have you encountered while diving?
Oh, at this point, man, I've been diving for almost 20 years. There's not a lot that I haven't seen.
Have you interacted with like seals and stuff?
Yeah, I've dove with sea lions off the coast of California.
How was
I've
that?
I've seen manta rays. There's actually a place on Catalina Island that does an actual sea lion dive. That's their whole thing. So it's like a boat that takes like 12 people out, and they have
I
these
know
sea lions.
Catalina Island really well.
Yeah, they have these sea lions trained. They like sound off a siren under the boat, and all that tells all the sea lions in the vicinity that they're about to get fed. And so they all swim out to this boat, and by the time we're geared up and we get in the water, there's like 100, 200 sea lions swimming around us, and the
That's
skipper's
a,
obviously throwing fish into them off the boat, so it kind of keeps them in the vicinity.
that's amazing. Yeah, I grew up in San Diego, so we'd go to Catalina Island every now and then for family vacation and rent the little golf carts and go around. But
Yeah, isn't Queen is amazing. I love it there.
it was so cool. I remember seeing all the, I think they're called Garibaldis in the water, like the
Oh yeah,
goldfish.
these are the orange ones. Yep,
Uh huh.
the California state fish.
Yeah, that's amazing. So you would dive around there?
Yeah, we did lots of kelp forest dives with the Garibaldi, and made it a point to target and film the giant Pacific octopus for a while. I did
That's,
at least 5 dives with the giant Pacific octopus and had some pretty cool encounters with them off the coast of California.
that's amazing. That's crazy. You live such a crazy life. I couldn't even imagine.
I've been lucky. I'll be honest with you. I've been real lucky.
You're all just, I just dive and great, just octopus and stuff. It's cool. Have you ever seen any white sharks while diving?
I've never actually seen a white shark. Not at least not while I was in the water. I've seen one from a boat, but we weren't geared up at the time.
Nice. Have you ever seen any like squid or have any squid stories? I know they're crazy in Mexico.
Um, I don't think I've seen a squid in particular, but I've definitely seen cuttlefish, and I've seen obviously they're close relatives to octopus, lots of different species of octopus.
How amazing. Have you seen sea otters?
Never when I was in the water with them. No.
What about like whales or orcas?
I've seen dolphins I've heard whales when I was underwater, but I've never actually seen a whale while I was diving. Not yet.
You said dolphins? How was that?
Yeah, dolphins in Hawaii would come check us out all the time. They're typically bottlenose or spinner dolphins that would just come check us out and then usually take off.
Oh, cool. That's amazing.
Yep.
That's crazy. And then, so in the Great Barrier Reef, you said when you were on COVID there, you were just chilling. Like, what kind of wildlife did you see there when you were just hanging out on the beach and stuff?
Well, when I was on Fitzroy Island, it was just a real small stretch of reef. So we had a lot of sea turtles, wild sea turtles, and then obviously the ones that were in care. We had octopus and reef fish on that little stretch of reef, but it wasn't until I took like a big expedition down the Great Barrier Reef. I was going back to getting lucky. I got invited to go out on this expedition down the Great Barrier Reef with it was kind of politically motivated at the time. And it's called Finding Varieties. It's on YouTube.
Okay.
The varieties are essentially the big boulder corals that grow for hundreds of years, and it's like the big brain, big boulder corals. And like I said, I got invited to be part of this like politically motivated documentary, if you will, that was filmed about finding varieties on the Great Barrier Reef. And, um, so it was like a 7, 8 day expedition, if I remember right, and we essentially traveled the majority of the length of the Great Barrier Reef, and we were just diving and snorkeling the whole way down. So
That's amazing. Did you just eat from the sea? Like, what was your food like?
I got again with being lucky that expedition we had an indigenous cook that was on the boat, and he was just a fantastic cook, and so he
That's
obviously brought
amazing.
a
I
bunch
was
of
a
food.
chef for the last 16 years, so I really love to hear about the food.
Yeah, he cooked a lot of great food, and occasionally they'd bring up some fish that they would cook on the boat after they caught them.
That's awesome. What's your best tasting meal that you had there on that specific trip?
If I'm being honest with you, I think coral trout was what made the biggest impression on me. Coral trout's a species of grouper that's found on the reef, and it's just fantastic. It's really good eating.
What did it taste? I wasn't prepared. What did it taste like?
It's like a white fish, and obviously, like I'm myself, but the guy that prepared it just seasoned it perfectly, cooked it perfectly, and it was just I don't know. That's probably the biggest impression that was made on me was the coral trout.
That's amazing. Oh my goodness. Did you guys ever eat any like lobster or anything out there?
Not on that trip, no. I mean, we did eat lobster while I was in Australia, but not on that trip.
Nice. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And so you went diving all around the world. Now let's talk about your herping for a little bit around the world. What are some like memorable spots you have?
Well, again, Australia hands down is the biggest, best experience that I've had in that realm. Once I got back from Fitzroy Island, the ferry started running, and they had volunteers that could go out and take care of the sea turtles. And we got done with that filming of that documentary I mentioned. I ended up reaching out to a guy in Cairns who owns Cairns snake removals, and he was obviously the guy that everybody in the community called when there was a snake or a monitor, and in some cases, crocodiles that were getting pulled. And he laughed when an American called him up, like asking for a job, essentially. And he told me to come on out to his house, and he would give me an interview. And so I show up to this Aussie guy's house, and he's like the big bad snake catcher in town, and he owns he owns two amethystine pythons that he has as pets, and they were huge. These two huge females that were every bit of 15 feet long and just like hogs. These two amethystine pythons, and he tells me these both of these snakes hate Americans. If you can get them both out of their cage and into a bag without getting bit, I'll consider giving you a job. and,
Yes.
and it was the coolest job interview I've ever had. So I wrangled these snakes out of their enclosure and I got them bagged, no problem. And the next thing I knew, I was going to work for him as a snake catcher. And so I guess that doesn't really fall into the category of herping. per se.
I mean,
But
that's amazing. You're out and getting wild calls for wild animals, especially like in their native habitat. That's crazy.
yeah,
What
that
other
was
experiences you have with that? Like, did you see king browns and like all the classic Australian species?
where I was at. Yeah, we had brown snakes, we had black snake, the red belly blacks, we had inland taipan. No, I'm sorry, we had coastal taipans where I was at. The inland
Nice.
taipan, the fierce snake, wasn't actually in the area where I was at. But if we went
That's
a little bit north of Cairns, we would run into mulgas, and we had them all out there. I'd
Did you
say
see wild bearded dragons?
no, those are more on the West Coast, from my understanding, and I was on the East Coast at the time. But we had like water dragons and Boyd's forest dragons. Are you familiar with those?
I've heard of them.
The
And yeah, of
Boyd's
course, the Australian water dragons for sure.
the Boyd's forest dragon is one of the most beautiful, impressive lizards on planet Earth, if you ask me. And I got really lucky to work with those frill necks. Got to work with some injured frill necks when I was there. Ones that like look like the spitter dinosaur in
Uh huh.
Jurassic Park. You know what I'm talking about?
Uh huh. It's hard to find the Australian ones. You just see like the Indonesian ones.
Oh yeah, no. Where I was at was obviously all Aussie frill necks, and
That's awesome.
occasionally we would do saltwater crocodile removals out of people's pools.
What? Get out of here. How was that? What was your like craziest story with that, or like a story?
Well, the biggest one we ever did was probably only 6 feet, so it wasn't massive, not compared to how big they get, obviously. But
It's salty. I couldn't even imagine.
it was still pretty fun trying to wrangle a 6 foot salty. They got a lot of strength, and yeah, it was my first time working with a crocodile, so I mean, it was a little bit of a learning curve there. I wasn't just like an expert crocodile catcher by any means, but
Oh my goodness. How did that story go? Like, what can you explain? You just pulled up to a house and it was in a pool?
well, we got there and this crocodile was actually laying at the bottom of the pool, and my initial plan was to kind of put a noose around its head on a pole and then just drag it up to the surface and out of the pool, and then we would wear it out and jump it because there was two of us, and we found that a little harder than we initially planned, and so it actually took me putting on my shorts and getting in the pool with this croc, and I ended up going down, and slowly from behind I was able to remove it off the bottom without it really spooking too much. And it wasn't until like we tried to remove it out of the pool that it started thrashing and going crazy. And at that point my buddy had thrown a towel over its head, and we just kind of pushed it up out of the pool, and I jumped on its back and he taped up its mouth, and that was all there was to it.
Dude, you're a freaking badass. That's crazy. What?
It was a cool
And that was your
story.
first croc experience, and you just got in the water.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've worked with big lizards a lot in my life. Never. That was probably the biggest, though. 6 foot was pretty good sized lizard. So, yeah, yeah.
That's insane. Did you ever have to deal with any like funnel web spiders or anything?
Not funnel webs. I'm not sure if I even saw a funnel web while I was there, but we did have. Oh, I'm blanking the name of them. The ones that are the huntsman. We had the huntsman, and they're like the size of a small dinner plate. And so,
That's
yeah,
great.
they were massive, massive spiders. They
Those will be
weren't
the longest ones in the world, right?
the longest
The,
what?
the Australian huntsmans are the longest like
It's
spiders in the world.
probably one of the biggest in like diameter. Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
They were
what was the biggest one you saw?
like a small dinner plate. Like yeah, get pretty big, but they weren't really that dangerous. They weren't really anything that anyone considered like, yeah, dangerous, but most people would freak out when they'd get them in their house.
That's crazy. And you're like, oh, it's just a huntsman. No worries.
They'd reach out to the local snake and see if we were willing to do a spider removal, is typically how that worked out.
You just have to go chase down huntsmans.
Yeah, I mean, I would usually just take like a big bowl or something and kind of trap it in the bowl, and then release them. Never hurt them, never killed them or anything. But
Was that more like nighttime calls? Like, did you get a lot of nighttime calls?
We did get a lot of nighttime calls, but I'd say the nighttime calls were mostly snakes.
Crazy.
There was, I mean, not all of them were dangerous, obviously. We had tons and tons of green tree snakes where we were at. And then we also had keelbacks, and I mean, there was a lot of snakes there that weren't venomous, but that didn't change the fear factor for those who had them in their house.
I bet. Did you ever see any sea snakes while you're in the reef or anything?
Yeah, I've seen sea snakes. I
What?
think
Like in the
I,
wild?
I think the only wild sea snakes that I've seen were in Indonesia, not Australia.
Hey, that
But
still counts.
there is plenty of them in Australia. I just don't think I had any encounters with them when I was there.
Did, and what's in Indonesia? What's that? What was that experience?
Uh, you said you've been there, haven't you?
I haven't been to Indonesia, no. But I
Oh,
was
not
wondering
yet.
about the sea snake. Like, what was it like experiencing that?
Oh, I think that would have been Nusa Penida Island, which is kind of east of Bali. We went out there because we were trying to film and photograph the mola mola, which is the big ocean sunfish, and it just so happened that where we were kind of poached up, waiting on the sunfish to come by, there was like a little section of reef that was a cleaning station for these sunfish, and so the guide that took us, he knew it was pretty common to see this really rare fish there. And so while we were waiting, there was just more than once where we were kind of hanging out on the reef and these big old sea snakes would swim on by. And,
That's
yeah.
crazy. That's so cool. Do you know what kind of crates they were?
Where I was out in Indonesia, it's been a while and I don't remember exactly what they were, but
That's
definitely.
really cool.
Hmm.
That's amazing. That's freaking crazy. You just travel all over.
No,
That's
just the last 8 years, I kind of got the travel bug, if you will.
just the last 8 years. That's a long time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll definitely have you on for more episodes for sure. Is there anything you want to say to the audience before we go, or tell another story or advice or anything?
No, I appreciate you having me on. Happy to come back anytime.
Awesome. See, it wasn't so bad, right? I know you're a
No,
little nervous. It was a lot of fun just bullshit. I didn't even realize how much stuff you've done. That's crazy.
yeah.
That freaking
Yeah,
blows my mind.
like working with critters.
And you're experiencing like everything.
Yep,
It's
yep.
like my dream to go diving with sharks, and you just casually do it over the last 8 years. That's
Bro,
amazing.
let's go. I got a guy. I got a guy in Mexico. We can go dive with bull sharks anytime.
I'm totally down. That is a dream for sure. And we'll
Yeah,
have to talk more about that.
if you got a passport, let's go.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. All right, I'll definitely have you on some more episodes, and thank you so much for coming on this one. And you're awesome, Sean.